and that was thanks to some of our, representatives and HR that helped work on that. But we will always have overtime at the prison because of the fact that every employee is a full-time employee until we have part-time employees that are actually scheduled to work, which is normally done in every business I've ever ran or worked in. Part-time people were hired specifically for part-time hours. That does not happen at the prison.
Okay. Anybody else want to address the board on agenda items? Okay, and if not, we'll move to the agenda items. First is a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center, the Juvenile Detention Center, and the prison. Second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All current payables for the Community Corrections Center, Juvenile Detention Center, and the prison will be paid. We'll go to the Controller's report. Mr. DeBillio?
Yes, Judge. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the prison business office for the month of September 2018, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $391,405.97 as of September 30th of 2018. The balance in the canteen checking account was $537,416 as of September 30th of 2018. And in addition, as of September 30th of 2018, the canteen account owned 2 certificates of deposit, one valued at $15,000 and the other at $131,975.99, which totals $146,975.99. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for the Controller? If not, thanks, Mr. DeBillio. I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Will a second?
Second.
On the question? Okay.
We have a total of expenses for Comcast and machinery, Molesky. These are going to continue in addition to any other expenditures we have, correct? For the canteen fund, we'll always have those right here?
That should be the case, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor of adopting the Controller's report? Okay. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The Controller's report is adopted. We'll go to the Community Corrections Center report. Mr. Jeffers?
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
Community Corrections Report for September 2018. Item 1, our program's totals. Male work release had 47 participants and female work release had 7 participants. Adult house arrest had 126 participants and juvenile house arrest had 14 participants. Item 2, our program's revenues for the month of September totaled $64,778.22. Item 3, our program expenses for the month totaled $93,940.30. Item 4, our program's completions. Work release had 11, house arrest had 26. Item 5, our violations. Work release had 7, house arrest had 5. Item 6, our program's warrants. Work release has 6, house arrest has 2. Item 7, our budget report. Overtime is at 95% for the year. Expenses are at 69% for the year, and revenue is at 81% for the year. Final item is personnel. We still have 1 part-time opening. That concludes my report, Judge.
What kind of position is the part-time opening?
It's a part-time position that we've had open since August. Our last part-timer went to the prison for a full-time job.
Okay.
We've advertised for it. We've had several applicants. We'll be conducting some interviews next week.
Any questions for Director Jeffers? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The Community Corrections Center report is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Judge. Next month, we'll have an update on the application for that grant for women's work release, okay? Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the Warden's report. Warden Betty,
Good afternoon, Board.
how are you?
Good afternoon.
Good. The average daily in-house population for the month of September was 874 inmates. The average daily population of county inmates was 584. The overtime report, out-of-county boarding, and community service reports are attached. And a staffing update, currently our correctional officer numbers break down to 167 uniformed staff on shift, 10 part-timers. We have 2 who are out on workers' comp, 4 on administrative leave, and we have 5 vacancies. The new class officially graduated on Friday, October 5th, and the officers are now on active duty. FMLA, we have 33 officers with intermittent FMLA. That amounts to 18.5% of the correctional officers. Budget, as of September 30th, revenue is at 73%, and expenses are also at 73%. Juvenile inmates, currently we're housing 2 juveniles. They're both male. Inmates at or past their minimum dates, the total number is 24. 6 of them have no home plan. 5 have had their parole denied. 8 have home plans submitted and are awaiting paroling action. And 5 have been remanded for the balance of their sentence. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 6 since the last prison board meeting. On 10/2, a county inmate was placed into 4-point humane restraints ordered by our medical department for his own safety. On 10/3, the same individual was placed into the restraint chair for his own safety after continually covering the camera in his cell and refusing to remove the obstruction. On 10/5, the same individual took several unidentified pills in the presence of an officer, and he was placed into the restraint chair to prevent further harm and eventually taken to the hospital. On 10/8, the same individual returned from the hospital and immediately covered his cell window and camera, preventing officers from observing his behavior. He was placed into 4-point humane restraints ordered by our medical department for his own safety. There's a pattern here. On 10/12, the same individual above stated that he had swallowed a battery. He was placed into the restraint chair and was transported to the hospital for his safety. On 10/13, once again, same individual had a string around his neck, attempting to harm himself, and he was placed in a restraint chair again for his own protection. So he monopolized our extraordinary occurrence report since the last prison board meeting. He is a difficult individual. We've been dealing with him on and off the entire month, so, and he's still with us. PREA, there were 3 allegations of PREA violations in the month of September. All 3 complaints are allegations of staff on inmate sexual harassment. All 3 complaints have been deemed unfounded, and the completed investigations have been forwarded to the district attorney's office. Before I conclude my report, I just wanted to respond to Joan's inquiry. Right now, I ran a report this morning just to check things, and we are at 96% of the budgeted overtime. But the counterbalance to that, if you think of, as a judge, the scales of justice, the counterbalance to that is staff. Our staffing is at, the payouts for staffing is at 56%. What that tells me is that we have the reason for the overtime in part and parcel is because we've been low on staff. The lower you are on staff, you have to fill in those spots, as you were mentioning before. We've also, as can be evidenced by these extraordinary occurrence reports, had numerous hospital visits. That's something else that contributes to overtime. Commissioner Cummings is 100% right in what she said. There will always be overtime at the prison because there are things like hospital runs, hospitalizations that you just can't account for. We had, I think back in August, we had at one point in time 3 individuals all in the hospital for several days each. Every individual calls for 2 officers 24 hours a day. That's 6 officers a day. That's overtime. That's 6 officers for 1 individual. So if we have 3, that's 18 officers, 18 overtime slots per day during that time period that we had those 3 individuals hospitalized. So yeah, our overtime is up. The good news is our salary line item is way down. We're at 56%. We got that class going, graduated and on shift as of actually October the 6th. So with the next month's report, that if you look, that overtime report ran right up until I think 10-2, 10-2, 10-3. So you should see a significant decrease. Unfortunately, if our individual keeps acting out like he has been acting out, that is going to cause a little bit of overtime because we have to take him up to hospital with 2 officers. And then when he's back with us, because he's such a high priority case for us, we're putting an officer on him 24 hours a day, literally eyeballing him. Because that string that was around his neck, that was his bed sheet that he had torn, and he had turned it into a makeshift noose, and he was trying to do that. So we have to keep a constant watch on this individual. And that calls for an overtime officer whose job, boring as it is, sit there and watch this guy, make sure he doesn't harm himself.
And Tim, this happens every so often.
Yeah.
The person that
Yeah.
constantly wants to
Yeah.
do something. himself.
Can you use part-time officers to fill that gap?
I cannot, based on the, you know how in the past I said I was handcuffed when it came to that? Well, they loosened the handcuffs now. I can use the part-time officers to fill in for full-time officers who are on medical leave, workers' comp, administrative leave, but not for something like that.
That's my point.
So, yeah.
There will always be overtime
Yep.
because we have all full-time staff.
Yep.
Now, what has occurred in the current union contract, Joan, is that we were able to hire more part-time staff to fill in specific areas, but we're still tied to what those areas are. Normally, in a normal institution in a hospital, you would have full-time and part-time staff. Full-time staff work Monday through Friday, and then you fill in on Saturday and Sunday with a part-time worker, or Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever day they pick during the week, you fill in with a part-time worker. Doesn't happen at the prison. You fill in with full-time workers all the time.
Right.
Does the savings and salaries counterbalance the overtime?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I tend to look at those 2 line items in our budget as one. The salary, the pay for staff and the overtime. So when I'm budgeted, if it was only $2 million, I had $1 million in each, I'm looking at it as, I got $2 million there. So I've spent over $1 million on this one, I'm way under $1 million on the other, and it's still working out.
And Joan, the other thing is this is what we have. So we have 10 part-time corrections officers. We actually could have 13. Hopefully, eventually, we will have that opportunity there. What we have now is something that we've never had in years since me and Timmy were there a long time ago when there was part-time staff there. We have people that are actually there, that of the 10 people that are part-time right now there, they will be evaluated, and whoever does the best job over the next month will get the 5 full-time positions. Then there'll be still another 5 people sitting there. So if anybody gets sick, retires, whatever happens, whatever they leave for, we have people that are already trained to put right in the slots. For the past 10, 15 years, the way it's been is this. We had to wait till you had enough people to have a class. Then you would do the class, and then you would pick people, then you would hire people from that class. We have people that are kind of like reserve COs sitting there, waiting to have an opportunity to be put right into a slot. So it's absolutely something we haven't had in years, and he's actually coming up with a number to figure out what the savings would be, because it's something we usually always carry five openings all the time. We won't have that anymore. Am I right, Warden?
Yes.
That was the one area that I was able to garnish the union contract last year, but that was it. Like, and there's more that could be done for savings, and it's just frustrating to be able to see this when we spend at the county $20 million goes to the taxpayers to pay for the prison. We get reimbursed 6 to 7, so the total cost is 27, and Lackawanna County taxpayers are paying $20 million of that dollar.
And what else is nice about the part-timers is the warden and the staff are able to vet them to make sure that if they are hired, because sometimes, if you hired someone right after they took the test, you weren't sure exactly what you got. We got people that are on the ground floor, and the way our contract is set up, for the first 6 months, you're on a probationary period where you can be fired anytime. Now, as a part-timer, if there's a bad apple or something's not working out right, they can be fired or, whatever we do with them. So I think it works really well for the county prison.
It was good. It was a good move.
And last but not least, I just wanted to request an executive session at some point to discuss a security issue. And that concludes my report.
Anybody have any other questions for the warden? Okay. I just, when do you anticipate filling the vacancies, the 5 vacancies?
Well, they did, all 10 part-timers just got on shift just 2 weeks ago. I figured they did the last pay period and they're doing this pay period. At that point, I'm going to talk to our shift commanders and our training department and say, okay, let's rate these individuals.
Okay.
So I'm hoping a couple weeks.
And see, Judge, beyond that is the fact that we had 10 part-timers sitting there now. Now, we'll have 5 sitting there, and if there's any spots that do open up in the future, we'll have someone that may have months in as a part-time officer, so there'll be an easy choice when it's done. Right now, it was just to make sure that they're gonna pick the best 5 of the 10, so.
All right. Nothing else? All right. I'll entertain a motion to, well, we won't move to do that until we, do you want to do that now?
The comment on the way and then
On the what?
do Want to get the public comment?
Sure, we can do that. Do you mind waiting?
No. I'm not.
All right, we'll go into executive session after the public section. Anybody from the public wish to address the board? Okay, nobody stepping forward.
That's great.
You're still part of the public.
Yes, absolutely, and there are other people. I think people were just being very polite here. I have a number of questions related to the Lackawanna County, I'm sorry, I'm Dr. Stephanie Bressler from Scranton. I have a number of questions related to the Lackawanna County Prison Population Report that was attached to the warden's report. For the past few months, the warden has been reporting a decrease in the average daily population of the prison. That's absolutely true compared to this time last year, but the population report is showing a steady increase since June. And I know that at the last few meetings, people have been really excited about the apparent decrease. But there's a trend again for an increase in the prison population. Although the women's prison population is much smaller in terms of numbers, according to the Vera Institute, the incarceration rate for women in Lackawanna County has increased by 659% since 1990. And that's more than twice the incarceration rate for men, which at an increase of 317%, is still much higher than the national average. So my questions today basically are, how can I get a breakdown of the average daily population in terms of women and men? Currently, the population report just shows a composite figure. And I would like to have access to a breakdown according to men and women. And then secondly, how can I get a breakdown of the sentenced and not yet sentenced population, again, further broken down by men and women? Thank you.
Warden, do you have capability to do that?
Capability? Yeah. I'll have to check about time, and I'm not being funny. That,
No, I understand.
Especially that second one with breaking it down. There's different definitions as to what's sentenced and what's not sentenced. Is a parole violator sentenced?
Doctor, are you just talking about county inmates? Are you talking about state inmates? Are you talking about federal inmates? I mean, what
I'm actually talking about inmates overall.
overall? So out of the overall population?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, just so we know what kind of sample we're dealing with.
Yeah, breaking out the female population, I don't think that's a big deal at all. Much bigger deal would be breaking out the sentence versus pretrial because of little variations. What do you do with an individual who's both sentenced and has a pending criminal charge?
Right,
So there's all sorts of complications.
okay. Well, give it your best shot. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Hello,
Hello.
Marie Killian, Dunmore. And I have here a report by the Prison Board Study Committees on the Lackawanna County Prison dated September 2016. Have all of these recommendations, or any of them, been adopted by the prison? It's quite intense. They're about 25 pages long. I'll be more specific. Okay, on page 8, section 2, the findings and recommendations, and then under D, staffing, scheduling, and overtime. This regards FMLA, Family Medical Leave. Given the employee benefit, prison staff and staff from the Human Resource Department have partnered to ensure that when abuse is detected, that the errant employee will be sanctioned through the appropriate disciplinary procedures. So, assuming that this is a policy that's in effect, my question, is it in force in the prison? Is this particular policy in force in the prison?
I could
for
tell you
employees?
that our percentage of employees on FMLA has dropped significantly since that previous time period.
Way
It
below.
it seemed like it was always at least 25% every report, and now we're down in the teens.
Between 15 and 20% all the time.
And there was also situations going on where someone might take an FLMA day and go and work another job. I'm not going to say the job. And they got caught working another job, so they were terminated because their first priority is working for the jail. So,
Okay, so it's good that it's gone down, but since it says when abuse is detected, how is abuse detected? Is this a software system in your human resources area that will tell you? I mean, FMLA has to be approved by supervisors everywhere. It's always for a specific reason. It's usually for a limited time period and then may or may not be addressed later on. But I appreciate that the number of FMLA cases has gone down, but who's in charge of, say, detecting it, finding if there is abuse, that determination, and then there is a sanction. Now, it's gone down. That's very commendable, but why? Were sanctions imposed? Were abuses
I'll
detected?
explain this for you.
Please.
We had a warden that most of our corrections officer staff had an issue with. They were very concerned with him. And a lot of them were taking FLMA due to the fact they were concerned with going to work. They did not want to be there. So actually, after the fact of this individual not being there any longer, the FLMA started to drop. Plus the fact that we started to actually, I think it was our HR department, started to watch people that we found out were abusing it. And there was documentation. Justin, come on in.
Yeah. If I may.
Yes.
I'm Justin McGregor, the Human Resources Director, ma'am. Okay. As I just said, I'm Justin McGregor, the Human Resources Director. In regard to our Family Medical Leave Act policy and any potential abuse, we take that seriously. However, I think I'm uncomfortable discussing how we investigate those claims, and I don't think that it's appropriate that we discuss, how we handle different complaints that come our way or what our investigative process is.
Suffice it to say that you do monitor it and you do investigate
Absolutely, Judge.
instances where you suspect or detect abuse, action is taken.
Yeah, we look into it, and some complaints may come from different avenues, including channels through the controller's office, which he passes our way. And like his complaints, we take everything serious and look into it and hold people accountable.
See, the problem is FLMA was set up for people for the rationale behind it. A sickness, an issue with your family, something like that. The problem is it became an abused situation. And I think we're doing a good job at this point with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is that responsive, ma'am?
I have to say, I absolutely disagree that it's appropriate to ask a question like this because I am not asking about a person, an employee, in any specific instance. What I'm asking about are policies and procedures followed by human resource departments in the United States. I'm a citizen of Lackawanna County, so I find that it's certainly appropriate for me to ask a question. This is a generic question. I just want to know that there are policies in effect, that they're being monitored.
Well, I think the answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
I think his reluctance was to tell you specifically what he does, because that would disclose the types of investigative methods that he uses and then tip off anybody who might be considering abuse as to how they're going to be detected. But they do monitor it, and they do take information from various sources and follow up and investigate where it's detected.
Okay, so the answer is yes, it is monitored and it is followed up. Thank you. And I have one more question. Under page 12, operations, number 2, more attention is being paid to ensuring correction officers follow post orders and more closely adhere to reporting any employee who violates the employee manual, rules and regulations. So in reading this, I'm assuming that there is an employee manual for the prison employees. There is one. Is it separate from the union contract?
Oh, sure.
The meat of it's already done.
Okay, that's interesting, because when I was here in August, I asked that question, and I was told by the board, I can't be specific as to who it was, that the CBA was the same, that was for prison employees and for Lackawanna County employees. And that's a little bit confusing because the collective bargaining agreement is about unions. But an employee manual is about employees of a company or a county, for example. So there is an employee manual that is specific to prison employees.
Yes, there is.
As opposed to Lackawanna County employees. How can I get a copy of it?
We can get you a copy.
You can get me a copy. Okay. I cannot access this online, but I can get a hard copy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell me when?
As soon as this meeting is over.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else from the public?
She have an employee handbook?
I don't think so.
No, the ordinance, yeah, that's.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Beth Ann Zero, resident of Dunmore, business owner in Dunmore, co-founder of NEPA Prison Advocates. I read kind of a lengthy letter at the meeting that preceded this one. I just want to bring out some key points. Stephanie had mentioned Vera Institute of Justice. They came and they spoke at our October meeting of NEPA Prison Advocates, as well as representatives from the ACLU of Pennsylvania. And they presented us with some really startling statistics, which I presented at the previous meeting. And I think some of it was misunderstood as far as my intent of bringing up these numbers.
You said the previous meeting, you're talking about the previous prison?
The commissioners' meeting.
Commissioners,
I'm
okay.
sorry, commissioners' meeting from earlier today.
All right.
As a county, these are statistics from 2015 because so many of these statistics are gathered every third year or every fifth year. So the most recent numbers that we have from the Vera Institute of Justice is that our rate of pretrial jail incarceration is 57% above the national average, which is why Dr. Bressler had asked how many people are waiting for their trial. And the number from our community being held in state prisons is 26% above the national average. And the number of women incarcerated in our jail, as she had said, has increased 659% since 1990. The staggering increases do not correspond with our crime rates, showing that our incarceration rate is growing much faster than what our crime rates would be. I had suggested we need to take a look at our community resources for mental health care, and I believe that was exemplified by what they're going through with one specific inmate I know that mental health care has changed drastically over the years, and it seems like that's something that we really need to take a look at as a community, because that is greatly impacting what we're seeing here at county level, and as far as what our officers here at the prison have to deal with on a daily basis. We also need to look at our resources for drug and alcohol rehab, and we need to consider the number of people who are sitting in our jail because they are too poor to pay monetary bail, and those are the people who are not yet convicted of a crime. And how many people are in our jail because they cannot afford to pay fines? So are we basically partially a debtor's prison at this point? And I brought up these because we keep talking month after month about the amount of overtime that's being paid. And he's questioned over and over, Warden Betty's questioned over and over, and it seems like we keep looking to him for answers to the overtime when perhaps the answer really is, why do we have so many people in our prison? And do we need to look at statistics and see why we're 57% higher than the national average, and start looking at statistics. I know the University of Scranton has a group in their criminal justice program who are gathering statistics all the time, and maybe we could start looking at these statistics and sit down with the Vera Institute of Justice and see where we might be able to lower that population, not just as a temporary flux that we keep seeing, but maybe something a little bit more permanent. I know we have a lot of people from outside our area that comes in, but so does the whole nation. They have crime everywhere. So for us to be disproportionately higher at 57% above national average, I feel that's something that we need to look at as a community. And I just wanted to reiterate that at this meeting as well. Thank you.
Anybody else from the
Good
public?
job, keep the bad people off the street.
Okay. Any other business from any of the members? If not, we'll go into executive session. We're going to have that here. Tim?
Yeah.
All right, I'll ask members of the public to